not picking on you. That's what
Okay. General counsel, is there a quorum?
Madam Chair, you do have a quorum.
Good morning, thank you. I'm calling to order the December 2022 meeting of the IHCDA Board of Directors. We are meeting pursuant to the board's policy for participation by members of the IHCDA Board of Directors in board meetings by simultaneous electronic communication. That means that only 3 members must be physically present at the site of the meeting and the remaining members may call in. There will be an audio feed for the general public so that members of the public can listen to the meeting, and there will be a link to a video recording posted on IHCDA's website next month. At the time the motions are being made, each board member that makes a motion must state his or her first and last name for the record. The votes will then be tallied by roll call. I will now take a roll call of the board members to confirm members who are present and their location. Ann Valentine, designee for Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, here in the room. Mark Pascarella, designee for State Public Finance Director.
Present in Indianapolis.
Board member Kelly Mitchell, Treasurer of State.
Here in the room.
Board member J. June Midkiff.
Here in the room.
Board member Andy Place Sr.
Here remotely.
Thank you. Board member G. Michael Schopmeyer. I think you are muted.
Muted, yeah.
Michael, could you unmute and tell us that you're here?
Yeah, should that he's muted himself.
Michael is indicating that it is not him who has muted.
All right, now try.
Okay, Mike Schopmeyer, President, Evansville.
Excellent, thank you. Board member Tom McGowan is absent. All right. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November 17th, 2022 board meeting. Board, any questions regarding the November 17th, 2022 minutes? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Andy Place motion for approval.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mark Pascal, second.
All right, I'll take a roll call. Ann Valentine, aye. Pascarella?
Aye.
Board member Kelly Mitchell?
Aye.
June Midkiff?
Aye.
Andy Place?
Aye.
Michael Schopmeyer?
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Next, please welcome Holly Lester, who will present the additional Community Housing Development Organization's Operating Fund for Housing Opportunities, Inc.
Good morning, Board. The Home Investment Partnership Program is a HUD grant that funds development of low to moderate income affordable housing for low to moderate income households. Home funding can also be used for capacity building activities for community housing development organizations, CHDOs. Internally, we call them CHODOs. CHODOs are certified by IHCDA when we determine that they have met certain home regulations and they're eligible to receive home funds to use as an operating supplement when carrying out a home-funded development. CHODOs may apply for funding notice, CHODO operating supplement funds, only to be awarded in conjunction with an approved home activity. A CHODO may only receive CHODO operating supplement funds in an amount not to exceed $50,000 per project and $75,000 total within one program year. CHODOs are eligible to apply for a second award of CHODO operating supplement for a project that received an operating supplement award at the time of its initial funding. CHODOs funded within the past 12 to 24 months for a home project can apply for an additional operating support of up to $25,000 if they meet 3 criteria. That is, if they have begun construction within the first 12 months of the executed agreement with IHCDA, if they have drawn a minimum of 25% of the home award, and if they have drawn down 100% of the original CHODO operating support award. IHCDA, the IHCDA Real Estate Department accepts requests for additional CHODO operating supplement funds on a rolling basis until funds set aside for CHODO activities have all been expended. We review each request to ensure that the proposed costs are eligible under the home regulations and the organization meets the requirements to request the additional funds. During the 2020 home rental round, IHCDA selected Housing Opportunities, the nonprofit organization, as one of the organizations who received a home rental round award. Their service area is Porter County and LaPorte County, and they are certified as a CHODO, and they did receive that initial operating supplement fund alongside an award of home funds. They were awarded $50,000 on the College Hill Apartments 2 project in Valparaiso. Construction there has begun. A minimum of the 25% of home award has been drawn, and 100% of the initial CHODO operating funds have been expended. They are now requesting additional operating support. We have ensured that all the requirements have been met for this additional CHODO operating fund request. And we do recommend that this applicant receive $25,000 of additional CHODO operating supplement funding as listed in Table A that you have in the actual memo. The staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding additional home CHODO operating supplement funding in the form of a grant not to exceed $25,000 to Housing Opportunities Incorporated as recommended by staff.
Board, do you have any questions for Holly? Okay, seeing none, we have your resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Kelly Mitchell.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, June Midkiff.
All right. All those in favor, I will now take the roll call. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Kelly Mitchell,
Aye.
June Midkiff,
Aye.
Andy Place,
Aye.
Michael Schaffmeyer.
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Holly. And now you will also present the Home Community Housing Development Organization redevelopment loan for Hamilton County Area Housing Development. Thank you.
It's a mouthful. Thank you. Thank you, board. Yes, this is another CHDO request. In addition to operating funds, CHODOs can also be used for certain types of pre-development loans. The two types that we typically the only two types that home regulations recognize are site control loans and seed money loans. And this is a request from Hamilton County Area Neighborhood Development and they are requesting $30,000 of CHODO pre-development loan that will assist them with seed money for architectural and engineering fees for a rental new construction development in Arcadia, Indiana. And this is, of course, in Hamilton County. The interest rate on the loan is 0% with a repayment term of 24 months. The loan may be repaid from a construction loan or other project income. As per home guidelines, IHCDA may forgive the loan in whole or in part if there are impediments to project development, which IHCDA determines are reasonably beyond the control of the CHODO. The maximum that any eligible CHODO may request for either kind of loan, the site control or the seed money per project is $30,000. IHCDA will track the following key performance indicators regarding CHODO pre-development loans. Number one, we track the utilization of this resource by our CHODO partners as it relates to our increased outreach and efforts to increase the number of IHCDA certified CHODOs. And number two, track the percentage of home projects utilizing pre-development loans that are successful in their home applications. We do recommend the approval of awarding this home pre-development loan funding in the form of a loan in an amount not to exceed $30,000 to the applicant. Are there any questions?
Any questions? No. Okay. Seeing no questions, I will take your resolution.
All right. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding home pre-development loan funding in the form of a loan in an amount not to exceed $30,000 to the applicant as set forth in Table A as recommended by staff.
Thank you. Board, we have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion.
June Midkiff, move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mark Pascarella, second.
We have a motion and a second. I will now take the roll. All those in favor will say aye. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Kelly Mitchell.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Michael Schockmeyer.
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Holly. Please welcome Samantha Spurgle, who will now present Home Buyer Award recommendation for Habitat for Humanity of Elkhart County.
Good morning, board. So this is a request of a grant under the home buyer program for Habitat for Humanity of Elkhart County. They're proposing the new construction of 8 units, 6 of which will be 3-bedroom units and 2 of which will be 4-bedroom units, excuse me. This is actually the second award we've made for Elkhart Habitat. The first award was awarded by the board earlier this year, and they have actually closed on those units last week. So the homeowners are in. It's very exciting. Overall, just this calendar year, this will be our 7th award that we have made under this program. And if awarded by the board, this will be the 28th unit that we will have supported the construction for. So with that, we'll pause and see if the board has any questions.
Actually, I have a question. Sure. When you say unit, is that like an individual house or is it's just called, I think, apartments?
Right. So under the program, it could be a single family unit, and all of these are single family units.
Uh-huh.
We can also do duplexes and quadplexes as well.
Okay.
They can be a traditional single family unit that is owned by the homeowner, or it can be a condo. Neighborhood association fee included. So we have a lot of options and flexibility, which makes it a really great product.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Samantha, I think we're ready for your resolution.
Wonderful, thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding home funding in the form of a grant, an amount not to exceed $497,466 to Habitat for Humanity of Elkhart County Incorporated as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
So moved, Kelly Mitchell.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Mark
Second.
Pascarella.
Great, we have a motion and a second. I will take roll. All those in favor will say aye. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Kelly Mitchell.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Michael Schockmeyer.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
Please welcome Peter Nelson, who will now present the Housing Trust Fund and Development Fund update.
Morning, board. Yes, I am here this morning to update you on some of our gap policies and delegated authority. And as you probably remember, the board gave us delegated authority to award Housing Trust Fund and Development Fund to Housing Trust Fund and home projects, respectively, who have been negatively impacted by cost increases. So this is the update for those. So since the last board agenda was finalized, we have made 2 Housing Trust Fund awards through this policy. So Compass on Washington and St. Lucas Lofts, both projects in Indianapolis, both by Inglewood CDC. Each of these projects are receiving $500,000 in additional Housing Trust Fund. And this brings the total number of awards for Housing Trust Fund through this policy to 7 projects approved, totaling just over $3,030,000 in Housing Trust Fund funding. For our Development Fund policy, we made 1 award since the last board finalization, and that is Meadowdell Apartments in Salem. It is a senior community by Washington County Senior Citizens Housing. It's a rehab of 40 units, and they are requesting just over and received just over $335,000, bringing the total approved through the Development Fund policy to 5 projects and just over $2,215,000 in Development Fund awarded. Obviously, since this is an update, no resolution, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
What area of Indianapolis is the Inglewood CDC?
They are located in the middle, just north of, I want to say like 40. But they really cover all over Indianapolis. So
Thank you, Peter.
thank you.
Please welcome Hayden Weisinger, who will now present the TCAP monthly update.
Good morning, board. Every month we come to you with a update on the tax credit assistance program, or TCAP, for programs used gap financing for projects that have experienced negatively impacted by cost increases. Since the last board meeting, we have 3 new projects that were approved for the TCAP award. Those being Village Premier in Fort Wayne, Lakeshore Manor in East Chicago, and West Baden Lofts in West Baden Springs. This brings the total number of approvals up to 28 projects, totaling just under 13 million in total TCAP funding. Each of these 3 awards were all for $500,000 each. And I believe we have roughly 30 projects that would still be available to apply for TCAP in the future. And yeah, that's about it for the update. With it being an update, there's no resolution needed.
All right, any questions from the board? All right, thank you, Hayden. Next, please welcome Jenna Childress, who will now present the Continuum of Care Coordinated Entry Allocation Table.
Good morning, board. The Continuum of Care funding is annually awarded through a competitive funding process by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. The balance of state is comprised of 91 of 92 counties in Indiana, excluding Marion County, and this is the area that IHCDA oversees. One of these awards is for the administration of a coordinated entry system. The coordinated entry system is administered by the balance of state, and the coordinated entry process is to help communities prioritize assistance based on vulnerability and severity of service needs to ensure that people who need assistance the most can receive it in a timely manner. In each region in the state, there is a CE lead organization, and you can see a map of the regions in Exhibit A. The state is broken up into 16 regions since it is a large geographic area, and this is to help with the administration of the coordinated entry system. These lead agencies provide leadership and oversight of the coordinated entry system, and to assist with the completion of this work, they are made available a small grant to offset some of their incurred expenses. The Coordinated Entry Award is partially kept by IHCDA for administration, system evaluation, training, and technical assistance, and the remaining award amount is distributed to Coordinated Entry, to the Coordinated Entry lead agencies. Of that reserved amount for the lead agencies, we are proposing an allocation table, which is in Table A, to streamline that allocation process each year. So of that reserved funding, 65% is allocated evenly among all regions. 15% of that will be allocated based on the proportion of individuals in poverty in each of those regions. 15% would be allocated based on funding utilization from the previous award year, and 5% would be allocated based on the percentage of households on the prioritization list with a follow-up assessment that is conducted within 90 days. If a region receives a direct HUD award for coordinated entry that is separate from this process, then they would be ineligible for the award. And in addition to that, the regions also have the opportunity to voluntarily decline the award if they would like. In both of these cases, the funding would be reallocated equally among the agents, or among the regions that have agencies that have accepted the award. This allocation table would be used for fiscal year 2021, which began December 1st, 2022, and forward. Are there any questions?
How is this different than what we've done before? Or is it?
So in the past, this is similar to what we've done, but we don't have a standard table, so the process has varied a little bit. This would be setting up one streamlined process to make the allocation of the award a little bit quicker.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions from the board? All right, we are ready for your resolution.
Staff respectfully requests that the board pass the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve the allocation table in Table A for the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority Continuum of Care Coordinated Entry Grant for fiscal year 2021, beginning December 1st, 2022 and forward.
We have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Jan Midkiff.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Mike Shopmeyer.
We have a motion and a second. I will now take roll. All those in favor will say aye. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Kelly Mitchell.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Michael Schockmeyer.
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And I think you're on next, right? You will also present the Continuum of Care Domestic Violence sub-recipient.
So this is also a continuum of care funding that is awarded annually through a competitive process from HUD. IHCDA serves as the recipient for some of this funding and in turn manages subrecipients who provide direct services in their communities. One of these awards that IHCDA is the recipient for and has subrecipients under is the statewide Domestic Violence Rapid Rehousing Award. This award provides short-term and medium-term rental assistance for survivors of domestic violence that are experiencing homelessness because they are fleeing domestic violence. We request that a new subrecipient to the grant that IHCDA administers is added, as well as expanding the funding that is available to an existing subrecipient under the award. The process that was used for this, based on the current subrecipient utilization rates, it was determined that there was additional space in the budget to add an additional subrecipient under the award for fiscal year 2021, which began December 1st, 2022, as well as moving forward. Staff sent out a communication in fall 2022 to DV service providers that currently receive funding from the Community Services Department in some capacity, as well as service providers that use the DV Homeless Management Information System, and DV service providers that partner with the Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence to be informed that an upcoming funding opportunity was available. On October 18th, 2022, a request for proposal was released on the IHCDA website, and an announcement was made in the Valencia State Continuum of Care newsletter and to that list of DV providers that was compiled. The RFP was due on November 8th, and one response was received from A Better Way, who is in Muncie, Indiana, and their service area is Delaware County. They are currently funded directly from HUD for other Continuum of Care awards, and those include both DV and non-DV rapid rehousing and joint transitional housing and rapid rehousing awards. When evaluating their RFP, it was deemed that they were eligible for the funding, and they scored a 94 out of 100 on that RFP. The amount that they requested was not for the full amount of funds that had previously been unallocated, so it also opened up to current subrecipients under the award to apply for an expansion of their award. There was one current subrecipient that was interested in also applying for an expansion, and their request was granted as well. You can see those budgets in Exhibit A. The first table has the new projects budget, which is a total of $155,768. And the second table has the request of the existing subrecipient. So the second table on there, the second column has the funding that they received last year. The third column is the request to that funding that they requested, or the change to that funding that they requested this year. So that would be the expansion that they were requesting. And then the last column would be the total award amount that they have this year. And then at the bottom, you can see a summary of that funding that you are being asked to approve. So A Better Way requested $155,768. Family Promise of Hendricks County requested an additional $64,881.26 for a total of $220,649.26. This would commit all funding for the fiscal year 2021. And in this process, the key performance indicators that were used were in the RFP, and this was based on an evaluation of indicators related to housing and DV services, including adherence to housing first principles, employment and income outcomes, trauma-informed and victim-centered approaches, unmet need of DV survivors, and how quickly DV survivors are connected to safe housing and services. Once these award amounts are approved, they will go forward in our internal competition each year, and they will be evaluated on similar metrics. Are there any questions?
All right, hearing none. I think we're ready for your resolution.
Staff respectfully requests that the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve continuum of care funding requests for the DV Rapid Rehousing Award for the grant term beginning December 1st, 2022 for the organizations listed in Exhibit A.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Andy
Michael
Place
Schottmeyer
second.
has moved. Andy Place has seconded. We have a motion and a second. I will now take the roll. Those in favor will say aye. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella,
Aye.
Kelly Mitchell,
Aye.
June Midkiff,
Aye.
Andy Place,
Aye.
Michael Schottmeyer.
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Now, please welcome Mark Pascarella, who will present the 2023 budget.
I appreciate the grand introduction, Madam Chair. I'm sure everyone's excited about this. But obviously, it's very important to go through the budget process. So I'll kind of take you through some opening remarks and have Rich Harcourt come on up to basically provide a little bit more detail and then answer any of your questions you have, since obviously staff prepares the budget. And then they bring it to the budget committee to review. If we have any questions or concerns, we can discuss that with them at that point in time. On the acceptance from the budget committee, of course, we then bring it to the board for formal adoption. And so I get to present to you today, and at the end, I will then make the motion to approve, and then obviously the board will have their choice to second and then approve from there. We did meet with the budget committee on 12/12. I also met with individuals IHCDA on December 1st. You know, a couple things about IHCDA that I appreciate about the budget process is that they do it diligently. It is an ongoing process. It's not something where at the end of the year, they just sit there and go through the department and say, what do you have? And they just add, well, I just add 1% or anything of that nature. So sometimes some organizations get very lazy with budgets, and of course that causes problems. IHCDA does not. They've been very diligent on it. They work hard on it. They have responsibility and accountability is built into the culture, which we appreciate, and it's shown through when the budget comes through, because then there are answers to why there are discrepancies. There's plans for future budgets that address some of the changing marketplace. And certainly in the past year, we've seen financial markets change drastically. So I do applaud staff for doing that. The budget is comprehensive. It is structurally balanced. That is something that the state, because we deal with the IFA with the rating agencies for the state, our budget is structurally balanced. The rating agencies look at that very positively. And also IHCDA does the same thing, to where the budget can stand on its own and provide for it, not having the general budget, if you will, or the general fund have to subsidize operations, which I think is key to any organization that's going to run into the future. Some comments, on a revenue side, things are changing very rapidly, as everyone I think has looked at whether it's their 401ks or where interest rates are going, or just pay attention to the general news. We've seen that the spot market, or what you would sell mortgages into a market right now, that income is dried up. But what we've seen is that with interest rates being higher, so investment returns are higher, and then also the fact that fee revenue is up, it's kind of made up for some of that, which is good news. Expenses are moderately rising, so they are controlling expenses, so you're not seeing a major rise, which is, again, in a situation where your revenue is becoming a little bit more volatile is important. Salaries, when we look at that, staffing levels and salary are taking into account what market forces are doing. So therefore, they are not ignoring what's happening out there in the marketplace. And that's key for retention and also bringing in talent. Fourth, general, you do see some big changes in revenues and expenses, but that's taking into account federal programs that did not materialize. So there's no revenue coming in, but there's also no expenses. And then the last part, I'll talk about professional services real quickly. You do see legal as an uptick, and also with staffing, and or I should say, money going towards training for staffing and travel. Again, I don't think that's looked at as a negative, especially what's happened with COVID. We need to make sure our people are being trained, that we do understand what's going on in best practices throughout this industry, because if you don't, you end up falling behind and you end up just repeating the same thing that you've been doing before, which in a dynamic market does not end for success. So I think generally, the budget committee was very happy with the budget as presented. And so I'll hand it off to Rich if he wants to make any additional comments, and then we'll handle any questions we can from the board.
Madam Chair, Board, good morning.
Morning.
I'll be brief. I wanted to spend 3 or 4 hours going through the numbers. and shaking marks and that. But first of all, I'd like to thank the Budget Committee, right? June and Ann and Mark gave us an hour of their time and asked good questions, walked us through the numbers. We've spent time earlier on, as Mark alluded to, with Mark talking about our budget numbers, and then also giving them updates throughout the year on how we've done against our current budget. So I'd also like to thank Brennan Gerard, our new controller, who really did the heavy lifting here, who has assembled this budget, and who at 2 o'clock this morning sent me a terrible email saying he's feeling horrible and has a high temperature. So you got the B team on this morning.
We appreciate him not coming in.
We all do, thank you. I'll pass that along. The first thing I want to know is how we performed the budget that we approved last year. And we're doing very well, thank you. As Mark alluded to, there have been some significant shifts in revenues, the markets have changed, but at the end of the day, we're going to end up generating enough of a net margin to cover our expenses and to cover our capital improvements. And as you all know, right, we have to earn our revenues to pay our bills. We get very little money out of the General Assembly. So doing well against current numbers, you'll see that in the audit committee when the auditors present to you in April. From a budgeting standpoint, like always, this is a bottom-up process, right? We start with individual departments, staff, and executives, and we build the budget up with them telling us what they need to complete their mission for next year. So everybody's got a hand in it. It starts with them. And to my knowledge, we didn't have to cut expenses or exclude anyone or cut back on the program for what folks wanted to do in their program. We also used our heavily Excel reliant and outdated budget process this year. And I think next year you'll see a new budget software program that will be a little bit more efficient in how we get to where we're going. Brendan, I think, did a nice job of changing our format a little bit to look a whole lot more like our GAAP statement. So there's a little less detail. It's pretty detail oriented last year. This looks more like what you'll see when we do our GAAP audited numbers. It matches a little bit more consistently. So with that, I'm going to quickly walk through a couple of things to pay attention to. I think Brennan included this year an executive summary, 1.5 or 2 pages. It really details what's going on in the budget at a high level. It's a good read. As Mark indicated, the revenues have shifted, right? We used to make a fair amount of revenue by selling some of our single family mortgages in the spot market. As June is fully aware of the business she's in, that market has disappeared, right? I shouldn't say disappeared. There's still a market, but it is greatly reduced from years past. And so our revenues have come down. We've been able to offset. We've got a fair amount of cash to invest, and we're like actually making a return on that cash. In the past, we had it sitting in money markets, and now we're able to pick up some earnings off that. And then we have some additional fees. The real estate area is generating more volume. There's more real estate fees. One of our closed programs, Hardest Hit Fund, still has some residual income coming in from that now gets to run into the general fund. So all good news there, smaller revenues, but able to replace the TBA lost revenue with other revenues. As Mark alluded to, expenses are up just a little bit. Most of that relies on a handful of areas. First is in salary and wages, right? We're going to add 16 staff to the organization to help us accomplish our mission. And then there was a statewide salary survey impact that moved salaries on a one-time basis for folks, and we're able to cover both of those expenses. On the professional services, we've had some increases there for both our outreach, which is our home ownership people pulling together an improved marketing plan to go to market. We've got some monitoring expenses with the HHF program that's discontinued. We're getting revenue from that, but we also have some ongoing expenses to close it in. Our program contributions are favorable. So, our general fund augments or supplements our programs where there aren't enough revenues to cover expenses in federal programs. And this year, that's a break even, right? The general fund's not going to have to reach into its pocket to augment federal programs. The result of a couple of things. One, federal program's got some margin in it's helpful. The other is, our accounting team's done a good job of making sure that all the expenses tied to federal programs get assigned to federal programs. So doing as good a job as we can, making sure we get our expenses reimbursed from where they need to come from. All that results in a projected margin that will do a couple of things. Number one, it will allow us to pay our bills and have some operating room. It also allows us to cover our CapEx need, right? We have to pay for our capital expenditures, and the bigger pieces of that reside in our software system. We've talked in years past about maybe needing to reinvest in our operating system or our DMS system, and also to build out some space on 8 that we have leased that we're currently not using that we can use for meeting rooms. So I'm going to stop there. I would be delighted to take questions and answer them as best I can. If you really want to get in the weeds, we'll bother Brennan and get him to give us some answers. But I'll stop there. Again, I would like to thank our budget committee. From our standpoint, to have a budget committee that understands our numbers and pays attention is real comfort for us. We appreciate that. I'll stop there and take questions or let Mark wrap it up.
Any questions? All right, seeing none. You have a resolution.
I do. Action needed. We're going to do the budget committee respectfully request the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approves the proposed 2023 budget attached hereto as Exhibit A, as recommended by staff and the budget.
June Midkiff, second.
Excellent. We have a motion and a second. Thank you. I will now take the roll. Those in favor will say aye. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Kelly Mitchell.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Michael Shopland.
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Richard. And you're still up.
I am.
We have you next to present the mill bond recommendation.
So thank you, board. So I have 3 recommendations. These are all 3 the same, right? We're requesting permission for IHCDA to be the issuer of tax exempt debt to support multifamily or senior projects that you all at the board have already approved. So again, the request is just the permission to issue debt. This is non-recourse conduit financing, doesn't sit on our balance sheet. The first is the mill. The board, you approved this project located in Shelbyville in November of 22. This is new construction. It's family units. It's 168 units. And we are asking for permission to issue $22 million in tax exempt indebtedness to support the project.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, we will take your resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve the Series 2022 multifamily housing revenue notes, parentheses, the Mill Apartments project, close parentheses, pursuant to the resolution attached hereto as Exhibit A and is recommended by staff.
All right, we have a resolution. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Mark Pascarella.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second, Kelly Mitchell.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will now take the roll. All those in favor will say aye. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Kelly Mitchell.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Michael Shopmeyer.
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. On to the second one, Richard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Plaza at Central Greens Apartments. Board, you approved this project in July of 22. It's the Plaza at Central States. Central Greens. It's actually located on the Central States campus in Indianapolis. It's 122 family new construction units. We are asking for permission to issue $25,500,000 in tax exempt notes to support the project.
All right, board, do we have any questions? Seeing none, we will take your resolution.
Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve the Series 2022 multifamily housing revenue notes, parentheses, Plaza at Central Greens project, close parentheses, pursuant to the resolution attached hereto as Exhibit A and is recommended by staff.
Okay, we have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Mark Pascarella.
Do we have a second?
Second, June Midkiff.
We have a motion and a second. I will now take the roll. Those in favor will say aye. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Kelly Mitchell.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Michael Shopmeyer.
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Richard. On to your third.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vita, a greenfield project. You all approved this in July of 22, obviously located in Greenfield, Indiana. New construction, senior living, 130 units. This one is a little different in that the debt issuance will be $26 million, of which our portion, the tax exempt portion, will be $21,579,202. And that is what we were asking permission to issue, is the $21 million number.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, we are ready for your resolution.
Thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve the Series 2022 Multifamily Housing Revenue Bonds, parentheses, Vita Greenfield Project, close parentheses, pursuant to the resolution attached here to as Exhibit A and as recommended by staff.
Thank you. Board, we have a resolution before us. I will entertain a motion.
Mark Pass, oh, okay.
June Midkiff, move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Mark Pascal, second.
Great, we have a motion and a second. I will now take the roll. Those in favor will say aye. Ann Valentine, aye. Mark Pascarella.
Aye.
Kelly Mitchell.
Aye.
June Midkiff.
Aye.
Andy Place.
Aye.
Michael Schaffmeyer.
Aye.
Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Richard. 3 for 3.
Madam Chair, happy holidays to all of you. Thank you for your support this year.
Thank you. Next up, an executive director update.
Okay. Just real quick on a couple items. As you may recall, the tax credit qualified allocation plan has a general set aside that allows IHCDA to use 10% of the credits at their discretion. And we have traditionally used that to promote innovation. And this year, we sent out an RFQ in September targeting 2 emerging developers that are either a minority-owned, a woman-owned, veteran-owned, or a veteran service disabled veteran-owned business enterprise. And so the responses to that RFQ were due on November 28th, and we received 20 responses to that, which I'm really excited to see the amount of interest in new developers in creating affordable housing across our state. And so we're in the process of reviewing those 20 responses right now. And then we'll use the selection criteria that's laid out in the RFQ to invite 6 or 8 developers to present their developments to a selection committee the week of January 9th. So we're currently working through the process of identifying and using the RFQ's priorities to identify 6 to 8 developers to do a presentation for us. So we're excited about that opportunity. So at the last month's board meeting, I think a couple of board members asked a question about one of our programs related to providing supportive services with the home funds in a partnership that we have with the, it was with the Emergency Housing Voucher Program in a partnership we have with FSSA in those supportive services. And that's an agreement we have with just about $5.8 million available for services for the EHV program. We did an RFP earlier this year and we only had 1 response. And so the limitation that we had in that RFP was that it had to be a community mental health center. And so we currently have another round of the RFP out right now. The applications are due on December 19th. So I think the question that we had was, could we open it up to not-for-profits who provide these services who may not be a community service mental health center? And so we, the answer to that question is that they do not have to be a CMHC. And so when we do, we probably will anticipate opening up another round for organizations to apply for these funds to provide those services. We would open it up for organizations that may not be a CMHC. So just wanted to brief the board on that question that was asked last month. So that's my update for this month. Next month, January 26th is the next board meeting. We're planning to have it here, but we'll have it on the 8th floor. And the reason is because we will be making the recommendation for the tax credit awards. If you recall, our plan was to take those to the November board meeting, but because of the increase in interest rates, we had to go back to the developers and ask them to provide us updated letters on their permanent and construction lending, and also some questions about the equity financing that they had. So things have changed quite a bit, obviously, over the last 6 months. So we're doing our due diligence and doing re-underwriting on the deals. So we'll be able to take those to the board meeting in January, on January 26th. That's our plan.
And you know, if it's on the other floor, I'm totally gonna forget.
Yeah, we'll work.
You need a sign or someone to,
New card.
right? Yeah, I know.
Get you a card and we'll make sure we clearly mark where to go.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Then the last thing I just want to say, just thank 2 board members. This is their last meeting. June Metcalf, thank you. And Kelly Mitchell, thank you for your leadership and all that you've done for us. Obviously, our agency's strong because we have a really strong board that provides clear guidance for us as staff to execute on for our mission and setting our priorities and our vision. So I just want to thank the board for the work, but specifically Kelly and June for your leadership that you've done on this board. So with that, I do have a little token of appreciation. So we had this made for each of you. Thanks to Kylie Welling's husband. We have a little plaque here for you. So thanks you for your service. Kelly.
Very nice, very well done. Thank you. Oh, I guess I would turn that around and say, it's been a great experience for me to participate in this board. And the staff here continues to amaze me when I meet with them or hear about things. I follow on social media, and I think it's great that, and I always share. And I have a kind of a personal story of a nephew in Missouri who's very involved in affordable housing, and it's a small community and his work, but he always comments back on what a great job this organization is doing here in Indiana. And I just, I applaud all of you on the staff and thank you for for the 5 years. So it's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you, June. I know the Lieutenant Governor is very grateful for your service as well. Yes, thank you. And congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Treasurer Mitchell?
I'll second everything Jim said and just say, over the 8 years, I've just continued to be impressed by Jake, your work and the work of your team. You guys just do a fantastic job. I've learned a ton about even just leadership from watching you, Jake, and the work that you do. So thank you guys. You do good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
I just like to add one thing, obviously both of you, I know Jake expresses thanks from the staff perspective, but I think from a board perspective, your guys' wisdom has really helped us function very well, has made a positive impact and a positive difference. So, you know, I just want to express my gratitude, and I know that everybody else on the board feels the same way. Yeah, IHCDA is a better place because you were on the board. So.
Thank you. Michael or Andy, any words of wisdom?
No, not wisdom, but I'm sad to see you both go. You've been such an asset to this board. But I wish you best of luck in whatever you do next.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm unmuted, right? I echo everyone's comments. It's been a pleasure. Great to work with both of you.
Thank you. All right. Is there any other business to come before the board?
I'm sure we do have resolutions that will be passed around along with the board minutes. So if everyone can stick around, I know you're gonna be doing pictures and all that kind of stuff. You can sign those too, that'd be great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
So
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Give a motion and a second. We don't have to take a while for that. All right, we are adjourned at whatever time it is. 10:53. Thank you. We're taking.